All right, maybe another minute we'll get going, or we got 4 out of 5 TST members and a few guests. I think we could probably, I'll share my screen and we can go ahead and remember how to share my screen. It might take me a whole minute to find the share button. There we go. My screen visible. Let's see, I think Michelle, you often offer to help take notes, I guess, of things live if you're okay with that, or
Sure.
great, thank you. All right, attendance. We've got 4 out of 5. Nate shows up, we'll add him. We got Michelle. I guess Denise might not be here yet, but hopefully she'll be able to join if possible. So I will admit, the way I create a draft agenda for these meetings is I look at the previous month's agenda and I copy and paste it, and then I start editing. And then people suggest adding things. I will remove things off this list eventually. Believe me, I will not keep the same list all year. Especially Google Summer of Code will be, I guess that one actually will probably be on there for several months now. But some of these I will definitely remove soon. Welcome, everybody. We got March 7th, 2025. If anyone has anything they would like to suggest adding to the agenda, please say so. Please bring it up. All right. Feel free to bring them up later too if you think of them. So this is more of a um, administrivia kind of thing, but we have a lot of GitHub projects, and a lot of them we have automated CI tests set up. If any of those use Ubuntu 2004 as the host image, they will start failing deterministically in less than a month on April 1st is GitHub's plan. Uh, they fully support Ubuntu 2404 and 2204. I know I've done a quick scan of our projects. A lot of us are already using, a lot of the projects are already using 2204 and 2404. That's great. Thanks for keeping those up to date. The main holdouts right now are P4C and the Open P4 Studio repos still use some 2004 images. So the main emergency thing is, or not emergency, but in less than a month, it'd be nice to at least stop using those. Ideally, start using 2404 if it isn't already, but that's a lower priority task. Anyway, just want to let everybody know if they hadn't seen already. We've got some pull requests open for P4C and Open P4 Studio to mostly stop using the old one that will be unsupported soon. And supporting 2404 will be future work.
Quick question here. Do we have sort of a standard policy in terms of which Ubuntu versions to support? Do we try to support several versions, or I know like in practice, probably every repo does it a bit differently, but I
Yep.
wonder if there's some standard guidance here.
I don't think we have any official policy. It's nice to support the two most recent ones, Ubuntu long-term support
Yeah.
releases. We ignore the interim every 6-month releases just because they're only around for 9 months. Um,
Yep, that makes sense. So two LTSs seems like
yeah,
reasonable effort and good enough backward
yeah.
compatible. Or yeah,
And it basically gives us, this kind of shuffle the deck chairs around work every 2 years
hmm
rather than, which is
yeah.
pretty low compared to if you're on like Fedora, for example, we'd be doing this every 13 months or something like that if
Yeah,
the schedule's.
I was thinking about this recently because I think on P4 runtime and some other repos we just always tested the latest version. But
Yeah,
if we're serious about test supporting the last two one, we should probably be testing the last two one. And so I think you were on that PR. I changed this for P4 runtime, so there we are actually now testing two
great,
versions. Yeah,
great. Yeah, it'd be nice to support the most recent two, 2204 and 2404, if it's not much trouble. Um, P4C is its own kind of beast. It tests a lot of other things. It does test Fedora and a couple versions of Mac OS and things like that. So, but
yeah.
just a brief note, like if somebody really wants to keep doing CI tests for 2004, it's possible to do it in a Docker container, but I would recommend people who want that go to the trouble of creating it That's not something we want to. We may one of the items that we're talking about is we are looking for somebody to help out with um, these kind of help with maintaining our automation and build infrastructure. And when we if and when we have such a person, they might offer to say, "Hey, I'll set up 24 for any repositories you want for you," and we'll say, "Please do it for P4C first, and maybe open P4 Studio, and others will consider on a case-by-case basis." But for now, like I say, the main thing is just we don't want our CI test to just completely start failing on April 1st, or if they do, we'll want to quickly fix it then. Just as a note, every Tuesday during March, they'll also fail for an 8-hour period during the day. That's kind of a brownout period that GitHub is doing to get people's attention before then. All right. Um, yes, so that second item is this P4 already looking for help on this. Um, so I have verbally heard from a manager at Intel that they might offer um, to pay somebody to help do that part-time. I haven't yet heard from a particular engineer. I remember hearing a name, but I've forgotten who it was, and I haven't seen an email message from them in the last couple of weeks, but I'll ping again. And then Fabian is reached out via email to someone who's done this similar work for the Haskell programming language implementation. I think the Glasgow Haskell compiler, I think they've done before, and now they're looking for they'd be interested in doing this kind of work for P4 as well. So no big news there, but we're looking, and if you know of anybody, uh, I think I'd like to wait to hear from one of these opportunities first before passing them up, especially the free one. But the P4 Governance Board, we've sounded them out, and they're open to the idea of paying somebody in the order of half to 1 day per week for a year or so, just to start the ball rolling. Let's see. So Denise Barton is very good at reminding me when I haven't written a P4 blog article in too long, and I'm not always good at responding, unfortunately. Sorry, Denise. Uh, I'll try to do better. But I would like to talk to, I guess, some of the. I'll probably just email the various working group co-chairs, at least language, architecture, API, and education. Education folks are a little more active this year. They're actually soliciting. I don't know if you saw. I didn't put that on the agenda, but there was an email sent out to I think most of the email P4 email lists about their soliciting course like college course material using P4, which there have been several such courses, and they're trying to collect them together and publish them. So I'll be talking to somebody. I think the notes from last time where I think I tried to say I wanted the architectural work group not to go first, but I will try to, in order to avoid it going first, I will try to twist somebody's arm if I can to, or offer to help them with a blog article. But that's mainly for the co-chairs, unless somebody else would certainly welcome to have help from others besides the co-chairs to help write such a thing if they're interested. Let's see. I don't know if we have Billy here today, but on the Google Summer of Code. Oh,
Yeah,
Billy.
hi, Andy.
Hey, thank you for
Yeah,
wait, don't mind
I
saying a word
can
about.
give an update. Also, like I think David is doing a lot of work here. I will give an update on the projects I'm directly involved in and give it to David to give more updates. So I guess probably the most relevant thing is the timeline. So the next date is March 24th. That's when the contributor application will officially open. So from now to that date, the contributors are emailing us and contacting the mentors, and we are discussing things. But then they will officially send their application. And the next important date is April 8th. That is 1 month from now. That's the deadline for their application. So after that, we need to finalize our shortlist of proposals and present that to GSOC. So yeah, that's a founder. And as to the concrete project, I'm directly involved in two groups of projects. One, there are three project proposals from the Google People team. And by the way, if you don't know, that's a team led by Stephen here. And one of the team member, Matthew, is the actual primary mentor for that. So from what I know is we have received around 3 to 4 applications so far, and we are still discussing how do we want to evaluate the candidates. So I think eventually we will need to pick one candidate and go with one of the three projects. So that's the current plan. And another group of projects are related to the P4MLIR project. And that is Anton, Fabian, and me are involved as mentors. And I think currently we have seen two interested contributors, and I think they are already involved in contributing to the actual project. So it seems they are pretty interested, and we will see where we'll go on that. So yeah, that's all the update from my side. I'll give it to Tavi.
Avi, would you like to add anything?
Uh, yeah, I got contacted from one student for the project related to finalize the Catran to P4 and take a look to the BPF backend for the P4C. So let's see how it goes. Seems motivated, but let's see, because for now we just exchange some emails, and I also contacted the guys from AMD that worked on the ABPF backend for P4C to help me a bit to with let's say possible PR review if needed, if we spot some bugs or something that we have to fix, and both were open to help me to the PR review, and that's it more or less.
Great. Fabian, I don't know, are you any updates from you on this? I see you're unmuted, but I don't hear you. All right, we'll come back to Fabian if he's able to be audible. Well, thanks for the updates there. We may come back to that if we hear from Fabian. Oh, got a chat message. Okay, yeah, audio problems. All right. Any other questions, comments on Google Summer of Code? All right. So on the P4 workshop, we gave to the P4 governance board a recommendation of being on one of the days of the OCP Global Summit in October in San Jose. I believe, Michelle, you may have some updates from talking to them more that the TST hasn't heard.
Yeah, so the governing board thought the recommendation was solid, and that there could be a really good opportunity for P4 to expand to a broader audience. And so we actually had a chance to meet with one of the senior event directors for OCP this week, and they are still finalizing the schedule and space that they'll have for the workshop. And this is the first year, she was telling me that they actually have more requests for single or half-day workshops than they typically have space for. So they're doing a site visit, I think, in a couple weeks, and are going to try to accommodate all the requests, but might not be able to. The downside is we might not find out if they would accept P4 as a full day workshop until May, which isn't terrible, but it does, it does give us a short time to try to pull a program together right before everybody goes MIA for summer vacation. So at one point, Dan and Deb had offered to see if either Intel or Google could potentially provide a venue again, like they have the last couple of years, just as kind of a backup option in case we can't get space at OCP. We can still move forward planning to have the workshop the same week, tentatively shooting for Monday the 13th, like we've been talking about. And OCP can promote the workshop for a nominal fee, even if it's not hosted as a co-located workshop at OCP. Like if they just don't end up having the space and don't think P4 fits with their program, we can still have it and do some cross promotion, and people who are coming into town for OCP can potentially go to both. So we can start kind of with that plan. I did also speak with Sunny Kai, who's Sonic's marketing person, about their experience because they've had a workshop at OCP the last several years. And she said they've had a great experience there. And so they are definitely hoping to return and would be open to kind of cross collaboration between P4 and Sonic, if that makes sense on the technical level. So I will defer to you folks to kind of figure out if the technical content would align in some way, that either there can be presentations given at each other's workshops, or if it just makes sense to cross promote to each other's audiences. It's kind of what you guys think would best fit for us working with them, but they're definitely still planning on participating. Regardless of where we have the workshop, we can have a nonprofit booth space at OCP. So it's a free turnkey booth. They'll brand it for us. We literally just have to show up and man it. And it comes with, I think, a couple of passes for the folks who would man the booth. So that being said, I'll open up if anybody has questions or thoughts on kind of the next steps or best way to move forward with the updated information.
So if I understand correctly, the summary from OCP is demand is so high, we're not guaranteed a spot at
Right.
OCP, even if we're ready to apply.
Right. We're on the list. Like we've
Okay.
expressed interest. We've thrown our name in the hat. It really is up to them to determine like how P4 would fit into their overall program for the whole summit, and then make a decision. And we just won't hear back until they make that decision.
Which should be by May, or if not before.
Possibly before, but yeah, by May at the latest.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments?
We might want to get a dialogue going with some folks from Microsoft again, because, you know, specifically in the Dash project, you know, there's a certain use of P4 as a modeling language, and there are some people who are kind of enthusiastic about it, like Riff Jiang. And he works directly for Gohan, so there's a lot of, let's say, political capital potentially available. And also, you know, the Sonic Pins effort at Google, I would think that would be another very relevant tie-in. So maybe we need to explore those areas a bit.
As
As
far
ideas of like presentations at OCP by P4 folks, you mean?
Yeah, just to try to drum up some supporting interest from people with, you know, influence, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah, I
It-
think any grassroots lobbying we can do to have P4 at OCP would be helpful. So if anyone wants to kind of put bugs in folks' ears to help them see the value of having P4 there, that would be great.
Would you mind if you are in a Dash meeting and Riff's around, would you mind starting that little?
I think it would be better if I just, I'm having trouble attending regularly now. My
Okay.
participation's dwindled quite a bit.
I see.
And I probably can't attend OCP because of the fire season. You know, just missed it by 2 weeks probably, or a month.
Yeah.
But I can reach out to Riff one-on-one if I have like the right message to send him. Like, you know, we're interested in getting something. Maybe Andy, you and I can
Sure.
you know, offline, just agree on like what's the message we want to send him. And I'm happy to send it to him because we have a good rapport.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I
So
think I'm not sure if this is the right message, but roughly it would be, would you want to collaborate or give a presentation by yourself at either the P4 workshop or at OCP with a P4 slant or
yeah,
focus?
yeah,
Roughly the message. Yeah, I think.
yeah. Do you want to just send me maybe an email like, and then I'll look at it, maybe tweak it a bit and then send it right to him and CC you, and we'll get a dialogue going, hopefully.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So one thing to keep in mind, if we go with having it hosted at OCP, it's a pretty light lift for the program committee. It's really just speaker management and recruiting folks to submit to the workshop CFP, and then just kind of making sure that everyone is ready to prepared, they have their presentation done, etc. They know when, where they're supposed to show up. The rest of the event is completely handled by OCP staff, which is wonderful. They do all the on-site logistics, they do all the signage, they do a bunch of the marketing. They provide all of the food during the whole summit, including the workshop. So it's very much ideal for this group, rather than having to, pull in LF events or pull in volunteers or whatnot. If that doesn't turn out to be the case, this turns into a much more work-intensive event, right? And so we would want to consider pulling in LF events to help put it together, even if it's at an off, different spot like Intel or Google. So what I'd like to do is, just so we're kind of as prepared as possible for either contingency, considering we might not find out until a little bit closer than we would like. I'd like to start trying to get a monthly logistics meeting going, and opening it up to this group for who would like to be a part of that, who should be a part of it. If anyone's Typically it's right, Andy. Typically the program chair comes from the TST, and additional volunteers help with things as needed. So throwing that out there to see if we can get that going and just start kind of preparing for both potential scenarios. So when we do know, we can, head forward full steam ahead.
And for that purpose, it might ideally it'd be nice to identify who are the program committee chairs and the general chair, just so that they would be the ones that should definitely attend.
Yeah,
So if we have volunteers for those positions, they'd be the perfect people to attend such a meeting.
that would be wonderful.
Okay, so mainly it's thinking about who would want to volunteer for either a program committee chair or general chair role for the workshop this year, given the still uncertainty of whether it's at OCP or some other location. Is mainly, I guess, a concern of the general chair. It depends. It could significantly change how much work they had to do for depending on those choices. Okay.
It would be a ton different. Like it would really be, regardless of if it's LF events doing it or if it's OCP doing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
the program committee still needs to figure out what the program is. And so that is the bulk of it.
Yep.
And that's a process that can start now with trying to scope out what kind of talks should be involved in doing, recruiting keynotes and invited speakers.
Right. Right. So definitely, I mean, I'll just mention here, if anybody, uh, I've been a program committee chair for two previous P4 workshops. So if anybody wants to talk to me, thinks they're interested in doing it, but they're not sure what the work is like, feel free to talk to me, reach out and talk to me. It's not, I'll just say briefly, it's not too bad. It's mainly, yeah, it's mainly figuring out, dates of when you do the call for presentations, running the website for accepting all the submissions, making sure that all the submissions in, that part, there's a website to record that stuff. And then it's, selecting a program committee to help you review papers. And usually, like in the past, we've gotten on the order of, in the last few years, it's been like 25 to 30 submissions. And then you have like 12 or so talk slots. It's up to the program committee to decide how many talk slots there are and whether there's a demo room and other, whether there's lightning sessions. That's under the program committee to decide, how many talks and what duration and all those kind of things. But, if there's on the order of 10 to 12 talks, basically you want to pick out among the submissions, the ones that, you think are the strongest and, would make a good presentation there. And then usually you offer consolation prizes of, demo or a poster for the talk present submissions that don't meet the bar. So it's usually not unlike, let's say, a program committee for something like SIGCOM, where people's tenure decisions are on the line and there's 6 times as many submissions as there are acceptances, this is a much lighter workload and lower stress level, I think, than those kinds of conferences. So it's not too bad, is what I'll say. And if that encourages you, then feel free to reach out and ask more. All right. Any other questions about the workshop? All right. Let's see, a reminder about P4 Developer Days. If anybody has any sort of just irregularly scheduled, or soon scheduled kind of technical talks they'd like to give, or knows somebody that they'd like to hear from that we'd like us to reach out to and ask if they're interested. Recently, David emailed me asking whether we'd want to maybe invite uh, device vendors who have P4 Royal products to give a impromptu talk, not at the work, before the workshop, and I think that's a great idea. If anybody knows of any vendors that are interested, I can check around at Cisco to see if there's any interest in that kind of thing. Cisco might be a little more unusual in that regard, in that getting access to the development kit where you get to write P4 code is actually pretty expensive or special and select group. So it's not many customers that they support in that way. And I know that there's other products in the market now that are programmable, but similarly, it can be very difficult to get access to the development kit. But some of them are much easier. And I'll remind you that, there was Excite Labs. I would recommend, if you're interested in P4 programmable switch silicon, follow them on LinkedIn or their webpage, and I think they'll be making a few announcements coming up that we'll make sure you hear about if you follow the P4 blog as well. I think we'll be copying announcements there if they're of interest. So if you know any vendors that you'd like to try to convince to make a talk, let us know.
I think, Andy, my word it also speak with Vladimir, that not Gurevich, the other Vladimir, the Polish guy that joined the language working group. Yes, that is working.
He's at Altera.
Yeah, so seems that, I mean, they have some product related to it, so maybe he's willing to present something. And I also forwarded you a news related to a Danish company that is doing smart NIC with P4 in collaboration with Altera. So maybe they are open to present something. I saw that they also release a small demo where they shows the, let's say, before functionality of the smart NIC. So maybe they are interested. I don't know. We can try.
Thanks. We can definitely reach out to them and ask. Sounds good.
So the idea would be to have some kind of tutorial or introduction to the product they're producing that is P4 programmable. Is that the goal?
I don't know if it would be necessarily tutorial, but it would definitely be sort of an introduction to what their product capabilities are that they're willing to talk about in a public forum.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and then like, who to contact for more information if you're interested in following up kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, you can't cover everything in a 1 hour introduction, but you can cover a lot of, you could cover a lot of things that let you decide whether or not you'd be interested in following up. Glad I can hear you. Any Google Summer Code updates while we can hear you, Fabian?
Yeah, it took me a while to fix this setup here. No, I've been on vacation, so I have been quiet the last couple of weeks. Actually, I mostly had a question to Davida and Billy. In terms of contributors that have reached out, how many did you get in average, or do you have an overview currently in terms of, for example, compared to last year?
You mean the number of applications?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Or
think
like
so
people
far.
that reached out early already?
I don't have a direct comparison with last year, but I can take a look. My feeling is probably last year. I think we are
So
still pretty early this year. Like
yeah,
we still have 1 month, and I would expect more applications in the coming months.
yeah, makes sense. So I'm asking because I guess you have contact to all the mentors that are involved currently,
So
right?
yeah,
And
I'm directly involved in like these two groups of projects. I think David is more also involved with the education group and the people research projects. Maybe he has some more updates from that side.
yeah,
I think that mm, they reach only one. They have one application till now, and that's it.
okay.
But yeah, there is. I don't know if is it updated, but there is a Google Excel file
Yes,
where the
the
application
spreadsheet.
are there. Yeah, yeah. I think that is not updated. Maybe we have 2 or 3 applications that are not, let's say, mapped there, but more or less this is the number.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering also, yeah, but about the researchy projects like Mohammed Shabaz's projects and etc. Because I think last time I remember the good contributors, they crystallized pretty early, or they participated quite early.
Yeah.
So okay, thank you.
All right. This is one of the items I'll probably mention this month, and then I won't mention again for a while unless there's news. But just a reminder that Intel released Tofino to open source in January. If you're interested, follow the repo. Um, uh, in the last 6 weeks, there have been, let's just say, I don't know. I think one of the reasons for Intel to release this was to reduce their workload and some of this stuff. So there's not like a lot of Intel engineers that are actively contributing to, at least not in the last 6 weeks. Um, so it's mainly been like Fabian, Vladimir Gurevich, and I kind of mostly Fabian improving the CI and getting some automated testing set up and improving the build between issues between it and the P4C repo with the compiler source. But feel free to follow it if you're interested in contributing normal issues and PRs. And if you're interested in, if you know somebody interested in providing commercial support for it, support of any form, whether it's free or even for pay, um, P4.org is not going to get involved in any contracts or money changing hands there that I'm aware of, but I'd love to just know who, if somebody asks, who I can point them to if somebody is interested in that kind of work. Let's see. There's definitely still some pieces of it that you cannot, with the Open P4 Studio alone, run all the software you need to run a real Tofino board. You still have to go to Intel for some of the pieces. But that's the status of that. And then I think, so this one, I've got a lot of notes here, but I don't intend to drag us into long and detailed conversation. But last November, a software license specialist at Linux Foundation did a review of software licenses in the P4Lang projects. I've started taking a bunch of notes and also making changes to try to one, kind of get a policy in place of like what kind of copyright notices should we have? Should they have years on them? What years should they have? Should they have an author on them? Should it be an individual company or the P4 consortium? You know, for files that don't have, for files that already have copyright notices, the plan is we're not going to change them. We're going to leave them exactly as they are. But if they don't have one yet, and we have a bunch of files that don't, it'd be nice to, should we say the P4 consortium or other things there, or individuals or companies? Is any of those preferred? And then also they recommended a one-line comment that's become kind of a de facto standard of an SPDX license identifier line. I don't know what SPDX stands for, but it's just a 4-letter acronym that probably means something. And basically just a very easily automatable line you can grep for and detect with other tools to see what license that individual source file has. And I think with several updates to various files in the P4C and the PTF, the Packet Test Framework repositories, we've gotten it down to 6 source files in the P4C repo that I think need to be GPL v2 licensed because they import a SCAPI library, which is GPL v2. But it's only 6, and it could have been like 20 or 30 before I started doing some of that work. So, and we might even eliminate it for those in the future sometime. It just, since they're test-only files, they're standalone, top-level applications. They're not part of the P4C executable. My personal preference is that we just mark them as GPL v2 on those 6 files and let people know, hey, if you figure out a way to update these to be Apache, let us know. But in the meantime, we'll just mark them as test only and GPL v2. And there's a few other minor things in other repositories like this, and I'll be looking into some of those things. I guess one thing I have gotten just this morning, I got a response from the software license specialist at Linux Foundation consulted a lawyer. They recommended that the P4 consortium, some of my questions about the copyright notices probably best answered by legal counsel, of course. Everybody is, most people I talk to are, I am not a lawyer, IANL. They recommended, talk to a lawyer, TTAL, I guess. Um, so I guess I would like maybe Michelle, I guess there might be do you know if P4.org has ever consulted an intellectual property lawyer when setting things up 10 years ago? Or maybe that's before any of our times, I don't know. Or is there somebody more directly, whether we talked to one before, I guess is the better question is just a recommendation for somebody that we don't have to pay a whole lot of money to for a few hours, what I expect to be a few hours of consultation to set policy going forward.
Well, so we shouldn't have to go outside LF for this. Like we have a whole legal department that is specifically to answer questions like this. So
Okay.
I think it's just more of a like we need to do it through an official ticket
Okay.
request to get insight, and they'll be able to guide us from there. But yeah, it's
I
like
mean, the
before it
kind of
has a
question,
legal fund set aside for
yeah,
issues with this.
like the kind of questions I have, I expect they're pretty vanilla, copyright notice and license questions that they probably have pat answers to for a lot of things. So I'm guessing we're talking about 1 to 2 hours of consultation max is my guess. They're not tricky questions in most cases.
Yeah, let's because I know I saw Steve Scott, the licensing guy. I saw he had sent through like a whole
Yep.
schwackload of feedback that actually came from one of our lawyers. Um, so if you can kind of take like questions that have not been answered by that most recent exchange and throw them or like share them in a Google Doc with me, I can create a legal ticket and
Okay.
say, hey, we have a project that wants to figure out how to answer these questions. Can you respond, or do we
Yep.
need to set up a call to kind of walk through them a little bit further?
Great. I mean, my goal if we end up, creating a ticket and getting it would be to record the answers for posterity in some one place in a GitHub repo saying, here's our policy on copyright notices and license notices and files going
Yeah.
forward. If there are any questions on that eventually, like that'll be our starting policy and then going forward, and then, we can maintain that if there's any changes needed. But I do not want it to be lost in the mists of time.
No, absolutely. I think having that documented and widely available to people who are contributing makes absolute sense. And I think that is like best practices too. It's just a matter of like actually documenting it and then
Yeah.
trying to do it.
It just, I feel much more confident if it's not just Andy thinks this is a reasonable idea versus Linux Foundation legal intellectual property lawyer recommends this. That's a much more
No, I
strong.
think I
Yeah.
think we should go to the lawyer, get their feedback, and then it's really up to the TST to decide what you want to do with that feedback and how you want to implement it on a project-wide basis, and then how you want to like follow up and make sure it's actually followed.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, the following up, the technical following up on it is mostly mechanical and tedious, I think, at that point. But I'd rather not do it twice is the important thing. So I'd rather not guess once and then go back and do it all again if they give us different recommendations.
Yeah,
So yeah, thanks. I'll go through the email I got this morning and put down, basically put their answers in the form of, here's something we've been advised to do. Here's what I think is the best advice. Please confirm that these are good ideas is probably the form it'll take.
Yeah, that works.
And, with the explicit notice of, we'd like to make this our sort of standard policy for when people ask about what kind of things to put in source files, what we should do in the future. Okay, I'll do that. Any questions or comments on that? I know sometimes this is the thing that makes your head hurt when you deal with software licenses and
Just
copyright. Go ahead.
minor question. So I guess you fixed a lot of these. What are the last 6 files? I guess two of them are eBPF related, and the other 4 are maybe the ATS copy tests or the TC tests.
The TC tests, I know how to make Apache with PF
Okay.
open now.
Okay, so which ones are the files that really require copy?
Currently, well, currently the ones that I haven't yet found a quick workaround are 6
I see. Okay.
6 eBPF tests for the eBPF backend.
I see. Okay. Yeah, those should be also possible. But
Agreed.
eBPF is GPL anyway. So
And like I say, I mean, I keep saying it, but these are only test programs, and yeah, the number has
yeah,
gotten down to it. Like before, we had this kind of thing where there was various Python files that were like importing Scapy, and then were imported by like 10 other files, and that got
yeah.
difficult to track. Now it's down to 6, and they're all ones that just directly say import Scapy, and they're all just top level applications that we execute from the shell, a command shell during CI tests. So it's gotten down to a pretty manageable small number.
Okay, that's perfect. So yeah, it's pretty easy to tell which one is a GPL file, which not.
And I also have a PR that if you want, during our CI tests of P4C, we can use the BF packet py library for everything except the eBPF backend test.
I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's perfect.
I run it through CI and it passes all the tests. And
so
go ahead.
What's the problem with PDF eBPF? Do they just have mismatches or?
Oh, I actually didn't try it with it. I think it uses some classes. I think it uses some classes that BF packet py doesn't.
I see. Okay, yeah, probably some headers, etc. Okay.
I mean, there's various like I think I've tried to. Scapy is big.
Yeah.
It's got
Okay.
all kinds of. I mean, dozens of contributors over 20 years have added to that. And BF packet py was like a quick hack, relatively quick hack thing with like 2 or 3 Intel engineers to replace the parts that the Fino backend test used.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of stuff that we commonly use, but like if you get into like customizing, creating your own custom headers with like random generators for them, there's stuff in Scapy that I don't think they implemented in BF packet py.
Yeah, makes sense.
But BF packet py does what we need for everything except a few eBPF tests now.
Yeah, I think in general our use is very limited because what you need in Scapy is the traditional networking way, which P4 doesn't really use as much. I think that's why we only need reduced functionality.
The main holdout where we still use Scapy, where the tests are not easy to like a one-line change, is when they define custom headers.
Yeah.
In the Python code. And so there's a bunch of the tutorials that are still using Scapy because they create custom headers. So anyway, I consider those low priority to change. We just call them out and say, these are GPL, realize it, deal with it. But they won't affect the P4C executables or any other. Like I've gone through and I've checked carefully, like the main things I think that are of commercial interest are P4C itself and its backends. Those are all fine. P4 runtime and its generated Go files and all its generated files from the for the P4 protobuf P4 runtime API protobuf files. They're all Apache. All the code generated from them is Apache. And then there's this PI repository that is used by BMV2 as its P4 runtime server. And I think that one's clean as well. Behavioral model. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I put in a little plug for this open traffic generator snappy thing for a minute?
Yeah.
So, thanks. Back in 1921, back in 1921, when I was graduating from college, no, in 2021, I did a P4 workshop presentation. I think it was 2019. I don't remember. I did one with my colleague on something called Snappy, which is an API library for packet generators. And the underlying library is an open traffic generator API. And I'm just going to post a link there. But just to catch people up, Keysight, my company, created a vendor neutral library for controlling traffic generators. And the intent was to allow scalability all the way from software traffic generators like Scapy all the way up to full line rate with the same API. And as far as I know, that's still the only solution that allows that, because you can use the same API to control like a container-based traffic generator all the way up to nowadays 800 gig traffic interfaces. So if you're interested, you might check this link and look into it. There's free tooling. There's a free binary containerized version that's DPDK that it can run up to tens of gigabits. There's commercial versions that go to full data plane speeds using software based, and then we have hardware traffic generators. We even did.
What do you consider the lowest end? Like you said, you can drive Scapy with it?
No, no, we actually you can't drive Scapy per se with ours. You can drive. We have our own container. It's a closed binary, but you can control it with this. And there's a free version. So you can generate many traffic streams running continuously. It's not just like packet at a time. It's really designed for streams more than one at a time. Although you can use it that way.
Yep.
Kind of underusing it. You can always go to my talk in that workshop, and it's still relevant. The concept. But this has gotten a lot of traction in the industry. Google's actually using it quite a bit internally.
I will mention that my manager has brought up in the last month the topic of how do we reduce our Ixia bill for like the high end 800 gig ports.
I don't have an answer to that. If you want to drive 800,
oh no, so
buy more of them and get a volume discount.
Yeah, no. So my belief is like it's very easy to write such tests that sort of lock you into Ixia, and you have to rewrite.
Well, this is the way we're saying. Use this, and then if you want to go buy a Spirent box, write your own adapter or get Spirent to write one, right? Or now, just to show you how flexible this is, way back then, I helped mentor an intern who wrote a T-Rex implementation.
Yep.
And it's up there. It's not maintained, but it proves that a student can do it in 2 months.
Yep. I'll mention this to my manager because it will still require changing a bunch of applications to take advantage of it in the first place. But once we do, I imagine we would replace some of them, the low rate ones, with T-Rex or something else.
So I just basically got myself fired.
No.
Sales finds out.
Like Cisco will not. I mean, it'll easily take months and arm twisting to even possibly reduce the rate at which we buy Ixia ports.
Yeah.
We might make a slight blip or slowdown in the purchase, but I don't think it'll like cut them in. It won't make them go away. I know.
Yeah. And as you recall, Andy, I put a sample project for the purpose of that P4 workshop talk into your repo, P4 guide, and rewrote a few PTF tests using Snappy as the data plane instead of Scapy, and showed that it wasn't that hard. So,
I've forgotten this. This is in my repo.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to go
in
look.
your repo.
I forget more things than.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad maybe to just, if it doesn't require too much time, to replace the PTF Scapy backend as the default with Snappy or either the BF Packet Py version. I think then you don't have that tainting problem.
It's not a simple thing to do to replace, to use Scapy. I will tell you. Here's the talk I gave. I just pasted a link. There's a software services company called PL Vision that's located in Ukraine, and they do a lot of the work for ASIC vendors. They write SDKs. They've done a lot of Sonic work, a lot of STI work, and they actually created a wrapper for their test framework that can use, you can just load a different library with a config file, say, I want to use Snappy, or I want to use Scapy, PTF as the data plane. So they have done some work on that. So there is some prior art out there, and that's open source as well. So anyway, I just encourage people who want to maybe play around with some new tools or some free stuff available.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on that topic, or copyrights or licenses, or anything else P4 you'd like to bring up? I need a picture like Chris's that's as awesome as Chris's to put as my icon for these meetings. I have that again.
Which one is up on this one? I don't see my icon.
The chicken
Chicken,
on your guitar with you.
the chicken, yeah. Snowflake, rest in peace.
Chicken with a name. All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and hope to see you next month when Ubuntu 2004 tests have not been failing for 5 days because we fixed that thing.
Nice.
Hopefully. All right. Thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye, y'all.